Good morning. It's Suzanne Ratti with Ideas360. You are with us live. We have been interviewing different resources for COVID, for small businesses, and for all the things that businesses are challenged with today. And today we have with us Jamie Thompson from Bayside Accounting and Consulting. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's good to have you here. So we were just going to kind of run through, I know you're in the Smart Professionals group, and I saw you had a post and you were just kind of walking people through the new unemployment application process for self-employed folks. And I thought you would serve as a great resource to our audience for all of the different questions that businesses have right now regarding COVID, regarding grant programs, CARES Act, all of that good stuff. So we're going to kick it off. I guess first, just, tell us a little bit about Bayside and how long you've been in business.
So Bayside Accounting and Consulting, we started in 2013. We have been continually growing. At first, we did mainly just small bookkeeping clients, and now 7 years later, we are pretty much a full-service accounting firm. We do everything from accounting to payroll to taxes to financial consulting. We serve as the CFO for a lot of our small companies. We also work, we have a very heavy nonprofit base. So we work with a lot of nonprofits, especially in the Annapolis area.
And, in serving that small business sector, what's unique about your firm?
So one of the things that we do with many of our small business owners is a lot of them want to do the work themselves. And it's not that they can't do their own accounting, but they often have questions and they need a professional that they can consult when they have specific questions relating to accounting or tax planning. And that's where we come in. A lot of accounting firms don't take that extra time. They're just trying to get the compliance end of things done. But we actually want to have a real relationship with our clients and to be able to help them not only comply with government laws, but to also grow their business, which is the whole reason they went into business in the first place. Make their business work for them. That's what we do. Another thing about us is we are actually the highest rated QuickBooks Pro advisors in the Annapolis region, according to Intuit. So that helps us with anybody who's related to QuickBooks, who uses QuickBooks software, whether it's online or desktop. We can provide a lot of those solutions for them when they're struggling.
Awesome. So how has your business adapted to COVID? I mean, everybody's going virtual. Have you guys been able to make that transition?
So we were already a primarily virtual firm. But now we are obviously 100% virtual. What has been a bit harder for us to handle is the never-ending changes and all the new laws and guidance. And we'll get answers to something in the morning, and by the evening, it's already changed again. So other than that, as far as adapting, we're still working. We're still helping our small business clients. And luckily, we were already set up to do it virtually.
Awesome. So what is, we had a number of different questions that were asked both in our Smart Women Professionals group, as well as I know you've been fielding a lot of questions from small businesses. So let's hop right into some of those. One of the questions that we got was, as a self-employed individual, how do I know how my maximum benefit amount for unemployment is calculated? Talk to us about that one.
So right now, the maximum benefit amount is calculated at 1/2 the average weekly benefit for the state of Maryland, which is, their number is $176. That is the minimum amount that self-employed individuals will receive. Once your application is actually reviewed, your amount may increase, but it, according to Maryland, will not decrease.
Okay, so it's a minimum $176 a week. Okay.
Yeah, and that is before the additional federal benefits of $600 a week.
Okay, got it. One of the other questions we had is, I remember reading that you may not be able to receive PPP funds and unemployment benefits. I went ahead and applied for both. What can I expect, or which is better for me?
So the only information that we have on this is from the SBA that says your unemployment benefits may be impacted by receiving the PPP. So the way unemployment works is when you're totally unemployed, you receive X amount of dollars per week while you're still looking to replace those lost earnings. That is the whole premise behind unemployment. If you pick up a part-time job and start to earn money, your unemployment benefits will be reduced dollar for dollar based on the amount that you claim as income for that week. So if your weekly benefit amount is $200 and you receive $300 from a part-time job, well, then there's no benefit for you that following week because you've now made more than what your benefit amount was. Now, if your benefit amount is $200 and you received $75 in part-time earnings for that week, then your benefit for the following week is $125. So it's dollar for dollar. And the reason that the SBA says that the PPP funds may impact your benefits is because you'll need to report that amount that you're paying yourself from the PPP. And if it's income, then it's more likely to be more than the benefits that the unemployment is providing to you.
So let me get this straight. So when you file for, you make your unemployment claim and then you have to file each week is how I understand it.
Correct.
So when you file each week, you have to report any income whatsoever that you've got for that week, part-time, whatever. And if you have income for that week, it doesn't necessarily disqualify you from benefits, but it could reduce the benefit.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. Go ahead. Anything else on that?
Well, yeah. So just as for which one is better, well, they both have their own stipulations. You know, the PPP is a 2-year loan that may be forgiven up to 100%. Even if it's not forgiven, it's still a loan that needs to be repaid. So it won't be considered income unless you default on the loan. Unemployment benefits, however, are considered taxable no matter what. So you need to determine which program has the most benefit for you, which one is going to be, that you're most likely going to be able to participate in, because some people are, concerned that they're not able to get into the PPP. And then, where you stand financially and whether or not you can repay a loan if it comes to that.
So I would assume that is a question that if I were your client, I would pick up the phone and call you and ask you that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if I weren't your client, are you taking calls and helping folks maybe for a fee or something with questions like that?
Yeah. So if you have super specific questions like that, which program is really the best for my personal situation, we're taking what's called discovery calls. People can go and book a call on our website, and it actually has an option specifically for programs related to the COVID-19.
That's a fantastic service, because there's so many folks out there who don't have an accountant, or maybe they have an accountant once a year for taxes and they just don't know where to turn. So I would think that's a tremendous resource that you're offering right there. Huge.
Well, we certainly hope it is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Another question we got is, what do I need to know regarding applying for unemployment? That's kind of a general question, but do you have an answer for that one?
Yeah. So certain things like, how do you apply? Well, you apply directly through the state. Most of us are in the state of Maryland, so they actually have a super easy website, marylandmdunemployment.com. If you go there, it has instructions for how to get to their Beacon website. If you haven't yet applied because you haven't been able to get through, I do recommend visiting our website, which I can share with you. It's not our main, it's on there too. If you go to our main website, not at the very, very top, but near the top, it's a COVID-19 website. We actually walked through the application process and created a whole bunch of helpful tips, as you're walking through the process, how to answer certain questions, how based on your situation, because some of them can be kind of confusing. Little tips and tricks, like if the system doesn't let you go forward, how to overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be something I would definitely start with if you haven't already applied and you want to apply. As far as what documents you might need, proof of income, that could be anything such as your 1099s, your 2019 taxes, a profit and loss statement. You're also going to need proof of having a business if you're self-employed, such as a business entity filing with the State Department of Assessments and Taxation, or business license, something that proves that you were in business in 2019 and or before February 15th of 2020.
So that brings us to another question, which is, a little further down the list. I started a new business last year. Haven't taken a salary or shown a profit yet. So for brand new businesses, how do they apply or get benefits? How does that work?
So my first question to them would be, well, were you making a profit in 2020 before COVID? That would be my very first question. And if so, I'd provide a profit and loss statement showing that. You don't really have a lot of data information for 2019, but in January and February, you were starting really strong. And then the only reason you had to stop is because of COVID. Now, if your business was operating at a loss, well, unfortunately, you're not eligible for the PPP because they require income, because that's what they're basing the dollars that they're giving you off of an income number. So if it's zero or negative, they can't give you anything. And unfortunately, that may also make you ineligible for unemployment, because that also is based on, the benefit is based on what you were making. So if you were making zero or negative, then unfortunately, you may not be eligible for anything for these programs.
Right. Okay. So new business owners definitely have some challenges to overcome as far as that's concerned. I applied, one of the other questions, I applied for unemployment, but there are other grants, loans. Should I consider other grants, loans in addition to the PPP? That's question 7, it looks like.
So there may be other grants and loans out there, but many of them are on a case-by-case basis, and you have to meet certain criteria to be eligible and apply for them. Depending on your cash flow situation, there are also tax credits available, but they only help if you really have other means of bringing money in.
Okay.
So, because they're credits based on future income as opposed to cash in your pocket today.
Gotcha. Okay. What do I need to know? This is a big one, man. I've seen this all over every group that I'm in, especially if there's small business owners in the group. What do I need to know regarding applying for the PPP loan? So there was another stimulus package passed last week, right? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there was a package passed last week. It infused another $310 billion into the Paycheck Protection Program. The unfortunate part, though, is that there were so many applications received during the first round that 2 things happened. One, some lenders actually stopped taking applications either before the money ran out or when it ran out. They said, well, we're just not going to take any more applications right now. And the second thing that happened is that those who continued to take applications, there are now more applications than there probably is money for this second round, or at least that's what the experts are saying. So my thing is if you're going to apply, do not wait. They started taking applications again at 10:30 this morning. A lot of lenders that have said that they're going to take applications again are ready to take them now. So if this is something you want to apply for, do not wait. The last one was gone in a few days. This one's not going to be around for that much longer.
And if you applied previously and never got through or whatever, is that application still in, or do you have to reapply?
No. So if your application was in and you got a PP loan number, a Paycheck Protection loan number, then you're probably getting through the process. Now, if you never got an actual loan number, because that loan number comes from the SBA, so if you didn't get an actual loan number, then you need to follow up as soon as possible with your lender and find out where you are in the process, whether they're going to actually submit your application for you, or whether or not you need to actually apply with somebody else. That's another question that we're getting a lot of is, I don't have a business bank relationship, or my bank is no longer offering the PPP. What other bank will give me the loan? We've found that Cross River Bank, and you can go to their website at crossriversba.com. They still seem to be accepting applications without having the requirement of a pre-existing banking relationship. So far, several of our clients have applied.
And I have heard that some of the community banks seem to be a little easier to get through the process. That's
yes.
Yeah. Okay. This one I've heard specifically for restaurants and those types of businesses. I am receiving PPP money, but my staff is currently collecting unemployment. How do I get them back on payroll, and what do I do if they want to stay on unemployment?
So the very first thing you need to do is you need to send them a formal letter letting them know that they are no longer furloughed. That letter should let them know things like whether or not they will have to physically work again. Just because you're putting them back on payroll does not necessarily mean that they have to come into your office. You could pay them to do trainings. You could pay them to, do administrative work. Honestly, you could just pay them to pay them if you really wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to let them know whether they're going to be working or whether you're just paying their salary, how much of their salary you're going to pay them. Unfortunately, not everyone's paycheck protection loan was what they asked for. So it means that they might be paying some of their employees less than what they anticipated. And what your expectations are for when they will be able to start physically working again. Obviously, we don't know when that's going to be, but you need to have a plan in place for what that looks like when they do finally come back. And any worker who's reoffered their job but doesn't take it, they likely won't be able to collect unemployment benefits.
Right.
One of the questions that they have to answer in their weekly certifications is, do you have the ability to work somewhere else? And if the answer is, well, yes, my boss offered me my job back, well, then saying, I just want to stay home and collect unemployment because it's more money than what I was getting paid isn't an acceptable answer.
So that answers another question that I've seen come up again on social media, is that if you're furloughed and you're offered a job to come back, you can't just sit home and collect unemployment, right?
Right. Yeah, that's not what it was designed for.
Right. I don't know if you just saw that. John Maggio just posted a comment that PNC is not currently accepting any new applications. So again, maybe your best advice is to go to maybe a community bank in that instance.
Yes, unfortunately, we are aware. We have several clients who bank with PNC, and when we saw that notice, they actually posted that a few days ago. We immediately told people, don't even waste your time applying with PNC. Don't wait for them to open back up, because they most likely won't. And that's actually how we stumbled upon Cross River.
Gotcha.
Which is actually a community bank, and they've been a lender with the SBA since 2008. So we're actually getting some really positive feedback from them.
And if people, I don't know if you'll know the answer to this or not, but if you get a loan and through the SBA and you never pull on it, then you don't owe anything if you've been approved for the loan. Is that accurate or not? Or does it automatically dump into your account?
So the PPP is an automatic dump into your account. That money is now belongs to you. If you pay it all back, then there's no penalty. If you took it in the last couple of weeks and don't need it, or now technically don't qualify for needing it, then you have until May 7th to pay it back.
Interesting.
Without any kind of penalty, because that's actually one of the things that they are kind of cracking down on a little bit now, is those businesses who took the money and didn't actually need it.
Right. So you have until May 7th to pay back basically a PPP.
If you took it and didn't actually need it, yeah.
Okay. Oh, let's see. How do I document, and this is another important thing, how do I document the PPP money that I'm spending so that I can have the maximum amount forgiven? So can you just talk about how the PPP loan gets forgiven and the whole documentation process?
Yes. So in order for a PPP loan to be forgiven, at least 75% of the funds have to be used on payroll costs, and the remaining funds have to be used for designated business operating expenses, such as interest on mortgages, rent, utilities, all within 8 weeks after they call it, quote, following the date of the loan origination. So basically, once you sign the documents, the loan documents, you have 8 weeks from that date to make these payments. The level of forgiveness will be reduced if full-time headcount or salaries and wages decrease. One of the biggest questions is, well, what counts as a full-time equivalent? The SBA has not released that information yet. So what's kind of scary is that a lot of people are signing their name on the dotted line for these loans without knowing exactly the process for the forgiveness. And I do just want to say real quick before I get into the documentation part that The PPP is not a one-size-fits-all approach. And the last thing that you should do is sabotage the long-term health of your business in an attempt to maximize the PPP loan forgiveness. Instead of going through the contortions to potentially achieve 100% loan forgiveness, invest your time contemplating your business strategy, forecasting different, scenarios, and having a plan for how to grow out of this, this challenge in our economy. Don't go into it with the idea that it's free money and I'm going to figure out how to get it forgiven, because it never ends well.
Yeah.
As far as how to document, either create a separate class or a group of accounts on your chart of accounts in your accounting software, or keep a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet if you're not using an accounting software, just something where you can, document the totals that you've spent. When you spend the loan money on approved funds, you'll categorize those expenses underneath those different categories. And then you'll also have to provide additional documentation. One of the questions I answered earlier was, for a new business. Well, you can do rent, but it has to be a rental agreement that was in place before February 15th of 2020. So if you're paying rent expense now, but weren't in 2019, you're going to have to document and prove that your rental agreement started before February 15th.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you're an accountant and you're certainly interested in business, but it certainly sounds like you're a valuable resource to have. I always say to folks that one of the first things I learned, having several businesses, is that there are certain things that I'm really good at. Marketing, sales, I'm good at that. When it comes to numbers, when it comes to taxes, I would much prefer to pay somebody like you to guide me than to have to worry about keeping up with all the, the latest rules and regulations. And I cannot imagine running a successful business without somebody like you to serve as my resource. And one of the things I say all the time is, don't try to wear all the hats yourself. There are certain things that you should absolutely outsource. And I think, now is a perfect example of why that's the case.
Absolutely. Yeah. To get the best leg up for your business, you need the best people in place. Yeah. And sometimes that isn't always hiring them on staff, So.
Right. One of the questions we had from our audience is, what about applying at 2 banks?
So you can apply at multiple banks, but the first one who gives you a loan number, you need to immediately pull the other loan, because if both banks submit a loan on your behalf, you will get denied.
Okay, so you can apply at 2 banks, but only, I'm just going to type this out for the comments, but only actually process a loan with 1 bank.
Yep. So both banks come back to you. They say, okay, we're ready to move forward. You need to decide at that point which one you want to have the relationship with. Because one of them could say, all right, we're ready to move forward. And the other one says, or you just never hear from the other one, which is what they're finding. A lot of times it's what they're finding.
John commented too that Severn Bank is also offering applications. So again, I think it's awesome. I think it's all about those local banks. They're certainly showing that they can serve as a resource too. Any other questions that have come to mind for you or from our audience? If the audience has any other questions, post them in the comments. But any other questions that you can think of that we haven't covered today?
The only other one that I've kind of gotten a few of are if their own pay as an owner is not part of their regular monthly payroll, i.e. they're a single member LLC, they don't pay themselves a salary, but they have employees, and they've already filed for the PPP to cover those employees, can they still file for unemployment to cover themselves? Because earlier we did say you can't file for both. That would be a situation in which you could potentially file for both. You could file for unemployment for yourself, but take out the loan to cover your employees.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I guess everybody that I've interviewed in recent weeks, I always ask them to get out their crystal ball. So get out your crystal ball and tell us how you see, let's just pretend that COVID's over. How do you see COVID and this, virtual environment, the shutdown? How do you see all of that impacting the way we get back to business as usual?
Well, so I don't really see us returning to any kind of normal, at least not the way that it was. But I do see a path forward. Those businesses whose sole purpose was to support other businesses in a specific area, they may not recover. I see a lot of businesses who sought to outsource tasks are going to be bringing those back in-house. And I also see that businesses that can survive virtually or change to delivery will become much more prevalent. And those who can't, who just their job just doesn't permit that, they're going to have a much more difficult time getting back to where they were.
Yeah, and I've seen some cool, I think the innovation that's coming out of this is fantastic. For those who have followed some of these broadcasts, they're going to get tired of the story, but I've seen one of my associates in Thrive Arundel owns Chesapeake Import Services, which is an auto repair company. And he decided to start a pick up your car service. So, what happens is if you need service, then you got to, worry about COVID, worry about getting out there in it, where you're going, all of that stuff. So he said, we'll take care of that. And so I needed 2 tires put on my car. I called him. He came over to my house, picked up my car, took it to his shop. It provided work for 2 of his employees to work on the car. They changed the tires, brought it back to my house, and disinfected every surface. It was in the car. So I just love that kind of innovation, because to me, hey, after COVID's long gone, that's still something I would love to have, because there's so many times I can't coordinate picking up and dropping off a car, or, my schedule's busy. But I thought that was really an innovative thing that at the end of all this, that should be a service somebody's still offering, I hope. And
one of the biggest things that we've seen, thanks to the rise of technology, if you want to call it an innovation, is efficiency over effectiveness. We're so efficient at tasks now. That's why we niche down to the point of, like I said, those businesses whose sole purpose in business was to serve another business's very, very tiny, one piece of them. We're becoming so efficient to get people in and out as fast as possible to make more money. And then now I think we're going to see kind of a revert back to, we're taking more time. How much more time did your car guy have to take to do just your job? But he's so happy to have your business that he's.
Oops, I think we lost your mic there for a second. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to point out about COVID is that, I have a family member who works for a very large institution, corporate 500 kind of company, and they were very much opposed to remote work. They didn't want any of their employees really working remotely. And with with COVID, they've pretty much taken 80% of their workforce remotely. So I think it's going to also open up a lot of opportunities for people to work remotely that didn't have those opportunities before. So I think there's a lot of good innovation that could come out of this.
Absolutely.
We have a couple of other comments here. Linda McBee says, Jamie's an awesome resource. So she's tooting your horn there. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
It's been great talking with you today. I have loved following you and your posts, and especially your approach, because you can definitely tell that you're very, very in the weeds, so to speak, with your clients. You get what they're feeling and what they're struggling with. So I really appreciate you joining us today. I know we've been scrolling at the bottom there, your website, but just for anybody who's joined us, you want to throw out your website information just so people know how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So BaysideAccountingCO.com is our website. And if you go on there, the first page has all kinds of information. Like I said earlier, at the top, there's another website. It's a Google site that we created specifically for all of the different COVID coronavirus relief programs. And down towards the bottom, you can actually schedule appointments right online with us. If you want to become a client, there's information on how to do that. And if you just want to, if you already have somebody you're working with, we are not here to take business, but If you want to talk about this situation,
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And this will be available as a replay on social media. So definitely check out Ideas360 Live on Facebook. And we also have a YouTube channel. Thanks again, Jamie, from Bayside Accounting, for joining us, and have a great day.
Thanks, you too.